Hey Zach,
Hi, Jordan.
how's it going?
My name is Zach. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Can you see me okay? Hear me?
Yeah, I can
Fine?
see. I can see you. I can hear you. Can you see me and hear me?
Yep, all good.
Well, it is such a pleasure to be able to speak with you.
Oh, thanks, man. Nice to meet you. So you're educating the people in the community about rock music. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I've been doing a remote rock music appreciation club
That's awesome.
via my library. I'm a librarian.
Okay,
At least that's my day job.
right.
Um, so we've done 6 sessions so far. And the seventh session, which is tomorrow, is
Uh-huh.
going to be about the later '90s.
Yeah.
And one of the songs I wanted to talk about was your song, The Dance of Eternity,
Oh, very cool.
because
Awesome.
I want to show how some of the more, some of the genres in the 90s started to become influenced by progressive rock music, such as your band, which is a progressive metal band, or also I'm going to be talking about Radiohead, who were sort of
Oh,
progressive alternative
right, right.
in the late
Yeah,
90s.
yeah. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. And allow me to say that for the past few years, Dream Theater have been one of my favorite bands.
Wow. Awesome. It's great to hear.
So
What a
it's
nice connection then.
yeah, so it's especially good to be able to talk to you.
Awesome. Isn't that funny the way things in life, you never know what's around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I was I was talking about progressive rock, and Amy and Hank said, "Hey, have you ever heard of a band called Dream Theater?" And
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, they're one of my all-time favorite bands." And they said, "Jordan Rudess is our brother-in-law."
Yeah.
And
You were like, no.
I said, "You're kidding me."
Uh-huh.
I said, "You're kidding me."
Right, right. That's great. Awesome.
Also,
Well, I'm here to say it's real. They weren't kidding. It's real.
yeah.
So cool, man. So
Also,
you're gonna record. So what's your plan? You want to record a little something to have as part of your presentation, or just get some information, or what's your game plan?
I was hoping I could ask you a few questions.
Absolutely.
Also, just so you know, I'm a prog keyboardist as well.
You are?
I am, yeah.
Wow, okay. That's
Don't
awesome. You play in a band or anything, or
don't currently have a band,
okay.
but the librarian thing is intended to be a day job for when I can.
I understand. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, great. What kind of keyboard do you play?
I usually play piano.
Okay.
I actually that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you is about keyboard models.
Hmm.
I figured you would know about that.
Something, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, fire away. So are you going to record, or you just like taking notes, or what
Yeah,
are you doing?
this is recording right now if that's all right with you.
That's fine. That's fine. Great. All right. Well, fire away. Let's do it.
All right. So, my first question is, what is that chord at the end of Train of Thought?
Wait, is that the one? Is
Yeah,
that
that
the
one.
one? Oh, yeah. It's like it is a minor chord, but with a major seventh.
It's an F, right?
It's a D. Well, it's an F augmented chord, if you want to look
Oh,
at it that way. And it's got a D bass.
oh, I see.
Right. Right. It's the kind of chord you'd hear on like a television show or something about spies, or
Is that your intent?
I just wanted to have something that was a little bit unusual and fun. You know, so much of what we do in rock music is based on major and minor chords, and in my music certainly other kinds of chords, but I don't often use that particular sound. It like that kind of sound is a real trigger. There's certain chords that just kind of bring out a style, even in one sound. And That's one of them for sure.
Yeah. And did you really play the bass note with your nose?
I think I did. Yeah, I think we captured that too. You're right.
And of course, you have that note starting and ending octavarium as well.
Right. That's right. Yeah. That's because Dream Theater is a very conceptual band, right? We tie together different pieces, and we like to have things that people can notice, and we intertwine ideas into things. And,
Yeah, you had that album cycle.
right, whole Metropolis thing, and little little hidden things for people to discover.
Yeah, octavarium is a pretty fascinating concept. The 8 degrees, and your 8 albums, the 5 members,
Hmm.
and it's intriguing. So speaking of Metropolis, I
Yeah,
was hoping you could tell me about the ragtime solo from The Dance of Eternity.
sure. So
What inspired it? How did you come up with it?
um, we were playing all these like heavy kind of linear riffs, and it was all this, like all that kind of stuff, and it was all
Yeah,
getting very technical. And I was thinking, oh man, I wanted to break it up a little bit, and sometimes just to make the guys laugh, to give a little bit of levity to the situation, I will, um, just throw something out there that's funny. I'll take what we're doing, and I'll put it in a different style, literally to make the guys smile. So we're down here, the bass and all this heavy stuff, and what about this? And they all just, fell on the floor laughing. And I think Portnoy was like, and I was kidding. I was totally kidding. And they were like, oh, we got to use that. So like, okay, we'll use that. That's fine. So again, I just took one of the kind of linear phrases we were writing, and I put it in my right hand, and I added a little thing to it in the left hand, and it became that part. And then I realized, that part became so loved by so many people, and you kind of realize that throwing things like that into the mix of some very serious prog is very effective, because people want to get deep and serious into all the very intense music, but when you throw something a little lighter, you put it in the middle, it's a breath. It allows people to take a little breath and maybe have a smile, and then on the other side of it, they can get back into the,
yeah,
you know,
and that
sure.
ragtime solo, of course, is followed right by that very intense guitar part by John.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of that song has a lot of craziness in it for sure.
Yeah. Um, and then you have that part in, I think it's The Dark Eternal Night with the you know
Right,
what I mean?
you have that whole,
Yeah.
it's all based in diminution. I'll tell you a funny story about that song. So John Petrucci was in a back room in this big studio we were in New York City, and he was playing his 7-string, and composing that riff was something like, it was really low, this whole thing. And he emerged from this room where he'd been like writing this thing, and he played it for me. And all I heard, it was as if he was playing it this low. It just sounded really grungy and really, really low. I could hardly tell what notes it was. I
Yeah.
was like, what? Like, what is that? What the hell are you doing? Like, to me, it was just like this energy. It was like, I didn't hear definite notes. But, I learned it, and we played it, and it was cool, once we got all the rhythms together and the whole thing. And then we went into the studio to hear what we laid down, like the first part of the tune, all that heavy stuff. And while we were in the studio, while we were in the control room, I should say, listening to that and finishing listening to that section, all of a sudden this thing popped into my mind, which was that whole passage. And I went out and I played it for the guys, and I remember John Petrucci looked at me like I was from another planet. Well, I think I probably am,
Yeah.
but he looked at me like I'm from another planet. Like what the hell is that? As much as I didn't get his little, really low thing when I played, he was equally as befuddled. So, but Mike Portnoy, who was always kind of like really open to a lot of different crazy ideas or whatever, he was, no, I love that. That's so cool. So, yeah, so that's kind of where we allowed the piece to go. And so the combination of his part, which I didn't understand, and my part, which he didn't understand, made for a pretty interesting song. And then I even got to go one step further, because I had kind of had this idea about that other part that's like, how's it go?
Yeah.
Which was, kind of, you're being a keyboard player, you understand the very like progressive thing with the bass kind of working off the top part, and they were also like, okay, well, show it to us, and then we played it, and everybody after they learned it, was like, okay, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always thought that was a nice moment on that song.
Yeah. It's the more it's one of the more progressive kind of like offerings, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I was wondering, who's your favorite classic prog keyboardist and why?
Classic prog. Well, my biggest influence was Keith Emerson.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that Keith Emerson was my biggest influence is because a few reasons. One is I discovered him at a time when I was just kind of starting to really have my eyes on progressive rock. People started to play me things like Genesis or Pink Floyd or Jethro Tull and King Crimson. And when I heard Keith Emerson, the first album I heard was Tarkus, and the power struck me, just the might of what he was doing. I felt like there was so much strength in the recording. And I was trying to understand like what it was that gave that feeling. And of course, part of it was that he was using electric keyboards in that way. These really powerful, distorted organ sounds and interesting synthesizer sounds. But the other part of it that I realized that was so cool, that wasn't so new to me as discovering the power you could have by playing these, electronic keyboards. The other part was the harmonic language that he was using. Keith Emerson was very fond of the fourth and the intervals of the fourth and the fifth. And it was kind of coming from like maybe even an Aaron Copland kind of sensibility or Hindemith sensibility, where you have these chords that are not like triads, but they're more based on fourths.
Yeah, well,
like suspended chords. So you take a simple suspended chord, which is it's like kind of like a major, but you can raise to get a suspended fourth chord. You raise the third half step. All of a sudden, you have this suspended chord, and then in all the different positions, we just simply play inversions. That's very much what makes up the Emerson sound. Even if I improvise and I use those kind of chords, you got that quality. And it always had a very kind of like strong sensibility to those kind of changes. What's interesting is the chords never, when you're doing that, they never truly resolve. It's not like going, right? And you go from, when you're in this other world of harmony, then it's like, you're almost like going down a completely different road where you could feel a resolution, but it's a completely different pathway than something that's in like a standard classical kind of, harmonic concept.
when I was taking composition in college, my professor told me that my stuff was too Baroque.
Oh, wow.
So he wanted me to explore some more modern ideas. So
Okay.
I wrote a piece that was sort of like what you were just doing.
Oh, cool.
It was called Opus Millennia.
Nice. Very proggy.
Yeah, it was classical. But speaking of the fourths, one of my favorite Jordan Rudess moments is that chordal solo in Outcry. You know the one I mean?
Um, I have to hear it to remember what I did. Yeah.
There's
I have the music somewhere. I could look it up, but that's cool. Glad you liked it. I don't remember that one off the top of my head. It's been an awful lot of music over the years.
you know, you do the solo in Outcry that's based on fourths.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, the fourth thing is definitely, as you can see, was a big influence, right?
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
Let's see. Don't want to bog you down too much with like the typical interview questions.
No problem.
Um, let's see. Well, what advice would you give a young prog keyboardist such as myself?
Well, the first thing is, playing keyboards and any kind of instrument in the vein of keyboards, like, guitar or violin or cello, or all these traditional instruments are all very physical. So anybody who's playing the keyboard needs to pay attention to, technique. And by technique, I guess I would go on to say that what I'm thinking about in terms of technique is how you take your musical ideas and you transmit them to your instrument. So if I'm thinking of a melody, da 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 da, I can easily get that out of my head into my hands without anything blocking that. So if I want to think of a run that goes dun, 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 I can go, and so I have the strength in my fingers to articulate things that I hear in my head. And whether it's a slow thing or a fast thing, whatever it is, it's that connection and that ability to make it happen. So I think for any keyboardist, anybody who's a young keyboardist and wants to make things happen on the keyboard, you need to have ways to develop that skill of being able to take what's in your mind and be able to put it through your hands.
Okay.
So, of course, that involves, practice, basic things, scales, arpeggios, technical exercises to build that skill.
Okay.
And also, I should say, the other part of that is not just muscular. It's also, if you hear something in your head, you need to know what interval it is. So if you go da da, and you don't scoop. You go, oh, that's not it. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, yeah. So you need to develop. Some people just naturally have a really strong ear for things, but other people need to work a little bit harder to develop it, and that's the other part of it.
Okay. Was it natural for you?
Yes. Yeah. I have perfect pitch, so it was kind of natural. Right. But yeah. I didn't to start playing the piano with a beautiful technique that I had to develop. Right.
I don't have perfect pitch, but I'm pretty good with the intervals as well, and
relative pitch. Yeah.
I have very good relative pitch.
Excellent. Well, that's most important.
Speaking of technique, I mean, I started out at my grandparents' house when I was a little kid banging on my grandma's piano.
Yeah. That's me too. That's how I started out, banging on my grandma's piano.
Same here.
Awesome. That's cool.
A practical question. What kind of keyboard do you take to gigs and on tour, and what model would you recommend for portability and playability for someone like me?
Well, the keyboard that I use in all my Dream Theater live shows is a Korg Kronos keyboard. Mm-hmm. It's an 88-note keyboard. It's a very powerful keyboard. It pretty much does everything that one would need to do in a gig like Dream Theater. It's not the most portable keyboard in the world, but it's one keyboard and it does an amazing job of making it happen.
Is it possible to move around?
Yeah. Well, sure. Maybe, you don't necessarily. I've seen people one person lift it up and move it, but usually you want to put one person on either side of it and just put it, move it that way. It's a weighted action keyboard. On the other hand, like for my backstage keyboards, because I like to warm up backstage, I use the Casio Privia line. Casio, some people think of them and think, oh, they can't be good sounds, but the reality is Casio makes some very nice, beautiful instruments, and they have a line of pianos, digital pianos, that also have other sounds in them that are very light, more like 21, 23 pounds. And they're awesome. They're great. So, but I couldn't do my full gig on that because it just doesn't have to be that.
How many keys do those keyboards have?
88.
They do.
88 keys. Yeah, weighted action, and they're only about 20 some odd pounds.
But you wouldn't use them for your regular gig?
I couldn't because I'm using something that has a serious sound engine in it and a lot of control. Like in my regular gig, I need to do all kinds of splits and layers, and I have these combinations of sounds where I'll have French horns in one octave and strings and voices in another, and playing some bass line in my left hand and special effects and the low keys, and that's a whole different kind of a beast.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, just a few more questions, if that's all right.
Sure.
Any acts that have opened for you that particularly impressed you?
Well, years ago, we had a group called Porcupine Tree open for us.
I'm familiar with them.
I was pretty impressed with them. They went on to have a very nice career and has done very well. And of course, Stephen Wilson, who is the main composer, he and I became friends after that, stayed in touch, did a bunch of things together. And so they were very impressive. Other opening acts that were impressive. I mean, back in the day, we had groups like Spock's Beard.
Oh, yeah.
And up for us, wild, like math rock, crazy groups like Dillinger, Escape Plan, or Beneath the Buried and Me opened up for us.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool. And they went on to have a good career. Periphery, which is more of a, new prog metal kind of sound, also opened up for us. What's the other group that I heard of? Spacing out of the name. Periphery, and I don't know. Anyway, does it sound?
Speaking of Spock's Beard, one of the other songs for tomorrow evening is Gibberish.
Oh.
Are you familiar with that song?
Yeah, I do know that song. Oh, thanks.
It's that song that's very, very Gentle Giant.
Right. That's the one. Yeah.
Which I meant to ask you about that before, if you're a fan of Gentle Giant.
I love Gentle Giant. That I used to follow them around in New York City. Matter of fact, I really studied their style because I was very much inspired by the fact that they could do all this would do all this counterpoint, but keep it in a rock kind of vein. And a lot of times when I improvise, I go into a Gentle Giant sound that completely influenced by them. I'll do something where I'll have numerous voices going on at the same time, but I'll keep it more it's like a classical rock kind of a thing, like a, right? It's like classical, but I'm just improvising, but it has a little bit of a bounce and a rock feel.
Well, one thing I really like about Gentle Giant is that they rocked,
Yeah, even if they're like. Right, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they didn't just do nice tinkly things.
Right. And everybody would be doing their own thing. The keyboard player is kind of playing his part, the guitar player is playing his part, and it all kind of would all end up being this amazing gel together. Somebody once told me that they practiced like endless hours together just to be able to do what they did. Yeah, matter of fact, and what's funny is years later, I met the guy who was the singer, Derek Schulman, because he became a music industry executive. Right. And we befriended over the years, so I got to know him. He's one of the guys, I think he signed Dream Theater for their first big label,
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And Gentle Giant is probably, if I had to pick a favorite rock band, it would probably be them.
Oh, that's awesome. Have you ever heard my version of Freehand?
No, I have not.
I have. You should check it out. You probably like it, being a prog guy. So I have an album out. It's called The Road Home,
Hmm.
where I did Tarkus. I did Just the Same, the Gentle Giant
Oh
song.
yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
I did Dance on a Volcano, I think it was. Maybe I'm spacing out. All on this one album called The Road Home.
You had a
Sound
cover
Chaser.
at
You
some
got it.
point. You had a cover of Karma Police, right?
That's on a piano album. This is a fully kind of rock
Okay.
orchestrated album.
Hmm.
You would really like it, The Road Home. And maybe and I guess since you're recording, everybody who's listening, watching, can check it out as well. I think people who want to discover prog rock might be a good way to do it. It's like all my very favorite prog things, which I kind of like redid in my own way,
That's
but
awesome.
paying tribute to, the people who did it, because I love that music, all in one album.
Yeah, I'd love to check that out.
Cool.
Look forward to it.
Awesome.
And, almost done. I was curious if you can answer how you decide what kind of atmosphere an album will have. Like for me, Train of Thought is very, very metal,
Right.
whereas a dramatic turn of events is totally prog.
Right. Yeah. Well, Dream Theater always goes in with a concept. It's a band
Mhm.
that has a very strong conceptual kind of backing to it. It's no, we never just go in and like play music without kind of understanding what we want to create. And when we were in a Train of Thought mindset or thinking about working on that album, we really wanted to write something a little heavier. So it was very intentional. Whereas something like a dramatic turn of events, then we were like, okay, let's get really proggy here, and we go in there with a very substantial idea of what we want to create. Concerning things like length of songs, like do we want to write epic songs? Do we want to write some things that were a little shorter, like the last album, Distance Over Time, was a little bit more about, okay, let's try to hone it in a little bit more and create music that's not so blown out and like and with a million changes, and not that we don't like going down a very wild, crazy musical road and have lots of turns and interesting things, but Distance Over Time was a little bit more kind of like to the point, if you will. So
Did you
each album
intend
kind of thing.
did you intend for Distance Over Time to be more accessible?
Hmm. We did. We wanted it to be.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What did you think? Did you think it was, or?
Uh yeah, I did think it was more accessible, and
But do you like it as much as the other stuff?
to be perfectly honest, I don't.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, no offense.
No, it's fine. So you like it when we stretch out a bit and get into,
Well, to give you an idea, my
well, you
favorite
like Gentle Giant, but yeah, so.
well, my favorite Dream Theater album is Metropolis. Um, my second
Seems to be.
favorite is Train of Thought.
Okay, so
My
you like the
third,
heavy stuff
well, my
as
third
well.
favorite is A Dramatic Turn of Events,
Okay,
and
that's cool.
my
Great.
fourth favorite is Systematic Chaos.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
Which leads me to my last question, which is,
Which one is my favorite? What?
what is your favorite?
Right, right. Um, well, I sometimes point to that second disc of 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
Hmm.
I like that so much because it was very melodic and kind of keyboard driven, and just really nice songs, some in major keys and a little bit kind of more open than some of the other stuff. It was kind of the opposite, if you will, from like a Train of Thought kind of vibe.
Yeah, it definitely had
Yeah,
like the orchestral stuff going on.
yeah, and you had like really nice themes. Like what was the one that went? were very, you know. Oh, you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I lost you for a second. There you are. Yeah, very majestic and big, and so
Well,
one of those.
I really, really enjoy the end of Goodnight Kiss into
Oh
Solitary
yeah.
Shell.
Oh yeah. That's
It's
nice too, right?
such a terrific transition.
Mm. So glad you liked it. Yeah. Some of that stuff is nice. Yeah. So that might be one of my favorite. Uh,
Okay.
you know, I tend to go for the more like classic proggy stuff instead of the heavier stuff. Just my personal taste.
Yeah. And some of your bandmates, I'm guessing, prefer the heavier stuff.
Well, the bandmates, like the guys grew up with Iron Maiden and Metallica, and whoa, I keep getting like moved to another screen. Where are you? It's so weird. Yeah, so they grew up with those things, and I grew up with classical music and prog rock, like Gentle Giant and
But you're
King
also
Crimson and
a
stuff
little
like that.
older than them, right?
I'm a little older than them. Shh, don't tell anybody. No, it's fine. So yeah, so we have, we come from different places, which makes the mix, styles. So I'm, bringing other things into the mix. I bring my classical training and my sense of orchestration, and they're bringing their love of Queensryche and, Iron Maiden and those kind of things to it. Oh, there were also huge Rush fans. Like
I I
Rush is king.
I got that.
Yeah, Rush is absolute king to the guys in Dream Theater. Not necessarily to me. I like Rush, but I could live without that
I've always
sound.
uh, I've always felt that Dream Theater were, in a sense, sort of a love child of Pink Floyd, Yes, and Rush.
Yeah, right, sure, right, absolutely. And since I joined the band 22 years ago, I think we throw in some other influences as well.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
the last thing I wanted to ask was if there was anything you could tell us about your current recording sessions. I'm guessing there'll be a new album sometime next year.
Yeah, well, we started recording a little bit earlier than we would have because of COVID and everything. So
Right.
we've been busy. We just started in the studio actually a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago, and we're making headway. It's nothing really to report because we literally just started, and we're pretty tight about when we're in the studio working. But I will say that we're in there. We got a good start and really excited, and nobody's slowed down at all. Everybody still plays very well. The ideas are flowing wildly and smoothly, and yeah, we're off and running.
And do you have a concept for this album?
It's not a concept album, I will tell
I mean,
you
not a
that.
concept, but like a theme musically.
But there's an idea behind it, which I'm not going to share right
Okay.
now. But yes, we always go in with some kind of a concept of what we want to create. So yeah, it's underway. We're excited to be doing another one.
Great. Well, I guess that's
Awesome.
about it.
Great. All right. Well,
Well,
it's so
thank
nice
you.
to meet you and to talk to you, and good luck with everything. And I guess if you're doing your keyboard thing, and that's a very serious thing, then you need to be working on technical stuff as well, right? When you're not at work doing your day job.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate this, Jordan.
Absolutely, man. Nice to meet you. Glad that could work out.
Yeah. And I'll be seeing Hank and Amy a couple more times.
Awesome.
They're
Very good.
they're my most loyal members of the group.
Oh, they love this kind of thing. It's so cool. They're
Yeah, I'm
good
glad I was able
customers,
to
right?
was glad I was able to connect with some people with this idea.
It's awesome. All right. Keep spreading the good word, my friend.
All right.
And good luck to you. Be
Take
well.
care.
Okay.
Take care
Bye
and
now.
good night.
Good night.